It was a sad day to see that Jeff Cook, lead guitarist for the country group Alabama, passed away. Although his health had gone downhill the last few years fighting Parkinson's disease, and we all should have been expecting it, as always, it was still a bit of a shock. Or maybe just a dose of reality that none of us are immortal. I've seen a few tributes to Jeff in the news and a few videos, and everyone's saying this and that about him and his talent. But there are a few things that I think many of the folks never touched on that made Jeff Cook so special and such an important part of the group Alabama. So I'll have my say here in a quick hit video, and y'all can have your say in the comments section after watching. Now, on to Jeff Cook. Let's start out by looking back to where and how the group Alabama came to be and rose up through the ranks of bar bands first. Some people only know them as the country music supergroup who pushed out over 40 number one singles and an astonishing 21 in a row in the early 80s. But prior to signing with RCA Records, there was a long climb up to get there, and Jeff Cook and his multiple talents was a huge part of that climb and keeping the band going through those tough years. When a cover band is out playing gigs to make money, and depending on how much you make on a given night decides on how good you can eat the next day, you need to keep the music up and sounding better than the band that played in front of you or the one coming up behind you. Jeff was the perfect fit for their band, known then as Wild Country. He was a multi-instrumentalist who could sing lead and sing harmony. And a band back then usually needed a bass guitar and drums, so in a four-piece band, the other two members needed to add the sound of the lead section. Well, Randy Owen, who was a great vocalist and an okay guitar player, but he basically held down the rhythm, and that left everything else up to Jeff. He was so important to their sound in the early years with his guitar, fiddle, and other instruments. That saved them from having to take on another musician to give the band a variety of sounds from their lead section, which meant more money to survive on. Life on the roads for bands like that is not easy. As the Alabama song lyrics went, "What keeps me going, don't really know, can't be the money, Lord knows I'm always broke." That line was heartfelt when they wrote it. Randy Owen said a few days after Jeff passed, "He could play any instrument he chose, but his harmonies I'll miss the most." I can totally relate to what Randy Owen was saying and why he said this about Jeff's harmonies. It's because he was a great harmony singer, probably one of the best in country music, and you don't hear many people talk about just how good at it he was. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away here from the group as a whole, or Teddy Gentry, who did a great job of handling the low-end harmony for the group. This is a video tribute to Jeff, and I want to talk about him mostly. If you listen to Jeff sing harmony, especially when it's live, his pitching is always good. Even in them early years, when the monitor systems pretty much sucked, his phrasing was always spot on with the lead singer. He just really had a great grasp on how harmony is structured and supposed to sound. Back somewhere around 1979 or 80 maybe, I got the chance to see Alabama. There was a party and a raft float, and they had live music with a few country bands and this group coming in called Alabama, who had a few songs out, but I hadn't heard any of them on the radio that I remembered. Again, I'm not sure of the exact year, but I do know Mark Herndon was playing drums at the time. I had started getting more and more into country music at that time, as I started to follow groups like Lynyrd Skynyrd, which led me to Charlie Daniels and Marshall Tucker, who in turn led me to the Outlaws like Waylon and Willie, and on like that. The sound system for this outside show pretty much sucked, or possibly the guy running it did. The stage was a flatbed trailer. When Alabama came out, they sounded good, but like I said, the tone was pretty bad all the way around. The thing that caught my ear was their vocals. This harmony they sang was great. Even through that sound system, you could tell these guys had it together with their vocals. Jeff Cook did it all that day. He played guitar and fiddle, he sang lead and sang harmony. Jeff was a very good lead singer, but the group had this special sound when Randy Owen was singing lead, with Jeff and Teddy singing the harmony. You could tell they were something special, and I wasn't surprised at all once they made it that they won Vocal Group of the Year 3 times in a row a few years later. Yeah, Jeff Cook could do it all. In my opinion, he was the glue that held Alabama together, especially in those early years of touring. He held them together musically and with his great harmonies. Teddy Gentry said, when Jeff finally got to where he couldn't perform anymore, it took them 3 musicians to replace him. Once Jeff had to quit performing with the band, it would never be the same again. He was one of the musicians whose place in the group just couldn't be replaced, no matter how many musicians you added. Alabama is the most awarded band in the history of country music, with over 200 awards from a variety of organizations. They were inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2005, and Jeff went into the Musicians Hall of Fame in 2019. Jeff, Randy, and Teddy were cousins, but even more than that, they were bandmates for 50 years. They came up through the bars playing anywhere for anything they could, and without going into too much detail, that creates a bond between musicians that is something only players who have experienced can relate to. It's something that stays with you for life. As always, I appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed this short tribute to Jeff Cook. If you have any memories or stories about Jeff and the group, please feel free to leave them below the video in the comments section. Thanks to y'all who follow and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it.